and welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, so must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome in. It is the Field of 68 After Dark on a Tuesday. We are getting late into January. Conference play is getting sexy. February right around the corner, which means we can start to fantasize about March. It's going to be a fun show tonight. I am Chris Childers. I am joined by the fabulous Mr. Jeff Goodman, a wordsmith par excellence, and the coach that we all love, Mr. Matt McCall. Lots to get into. Busy night.
Wait, hold on. Where's Henson?
What now?
Did he get caught at the tables? Where's Henson?
I don't see Henson. I saw he
show?
was in the hey.
Is he
I
caught
saw
in the
the,
snow?
My
Goodman?
sources,
What's going on?
Guys, my sources say that they're trying to dig Henson out of the snow, all 6'11" of him in Houston. He's trying to get out of Houston.
Okay.
He couldn't do it.
Okay.
He slipped and fell, and they're trying to shovel him out right now.
That will take
R.I.P.
an entire team.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
John. R.I.P.
That's going to take a team to get Henson out of the snow in Houston. He was on the billing today. I saw him on the X tweet, but no John. But we're going to be okay without him. We got a lot to talk about,
Right.
certainly. Lots in the Big Ten, the SEC. We can get started in the Big Ten because Purdue usually doesn't lose at Mackey, and they certainly don't lose to teams that are sub 500. And yet, here we are tonight, Ohio State, who has struggled. They've been in some tight games. They haven't been able to pull them out. You look at the last three games, they lose to Oregon by a bucket. They lose to Wisconsin by a bucket. Indiana was a tight game. They find a way on the road to get over the hump. Jeff Goodman makes sense of it for me, sir.
It's hard to at Mackey. I mean, Purdue's about as dominant a home team as there is, but this Purdue team is just not nearly as dominant. And, Braden Smith struggled in the second half. And, frankly, again, when they're not making threes, and Ohio State is, I mean, it's the great equalizer. No matter what, it's the great equalizer, whether you're home or on the road. If you start draining threes and getting hot, and Micah Parrish did, and I think Purdue is just so reliant on either Braden Smith or Trey Kaufman-Renn, and they can keep going to the well with Trey Kaufman-Renn, but you're trading twos for threes, and ultimately that's going to keep Ohio State in the game. When they were down 16 at one point, I mean, it looked like they were going to get run, and they stay in it. They take the lead, and listen, Janai Mobley is one of the best shooters. He didn't have a great night, and he got hit early on in the game, and I wasn't sure he was going to come back. But he is one of the elite shooters in college basketball. He drained a big one at the end of the game to kind of give Ohio State the win.
It was massive for Ohio State. They needed that. I mean, that's a team that needed to learn how to win. Matt, you've been a part of programs at Florida. You coach Chattanooga. You've been at UMass. Sometimes a team just needs to understand this is what it's like to win. Now, they nearly gave that game away. They had a nice sizable lead, and Purdue did everything there at the end to chip and scratch and claw, but they're going home with a W, and that trip home is going to feel sweet after going to Mackey. So how valuable for Jake Diebler's team?
Well, this is the same team that knocked off Kentucky by 20 points. Right. So, let's not, Ohio State's good.
They're talented.
Purdue,
Yeah,
more or less, coming back off that West Coast swing where they won 2 games in a row. And I would love to see what the numbers are going to be for these teams coming off that swing when they have to play a game, right? Like, they played on January 18th. They turn around and play today at home. And it's one of those things like, hey, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Ohio State, they're not having a great year. It's that human nature element, that human nature game of, hey, we just went out there. We won 2 games in a row. We're a top 25 team. There's no way in our own building that we're going to get beat. Well, you got beat because if a team, like Goodman just says, if a team comes in there and makes a ton of threes, it's the greatest equalizer in all of college basketball. For Purdue to play as well as they did on that West Coast swing, that's the thing about basketball. You got to turn around and play again. And when a team makes a ton of threes like they did tonight, anybody can beat you. But for Ohio State, it's kind of one of those things like, who is this team? Are they the team that is going to beat Kentucky by 20 and then turn around, today and win the game on the road against, a good Purdue team? Like, or are they going to be the team that's lost some games? Like, who are they going to be? But I think this is more about Purdue in terms of went on the West Coast, won those 2 games, turn around, came home. Hey, we will be okay. No, we're not okay. We're in a dogfight. And then even when you get a lead in the game, take a breath. Oh, all right, this is fine. Let's kick it in cruise control. Nope, all of a sudden 3 start going in. You're going to lose the game.
So what is the Big Ten even? Like, I was just thinking about this. We've had these years, think about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago where the Big Ten was so damn good at the top, and we were talking about how great they were in the regular season, and then they get to the tournament and, they wouldn't get the fruits. They wouldn't cut down the net. This year, like, what does it even mean to be at the top of the Big Ten? Michigan State's been outstanding. Michigan, Purdue, et cetera. But you look at Purdue tonight, they look vulnerable. I mean, Jeff, it's crazy, but the
Vulnerable at
SEC,
home.
like, what does it mean?
Not
Like, what
just
is the Big Ten? I know.
It's a bunch of teams. You really could have 4 or 5 teams that are honestly fighting for the title going into the last week of the season. There's not much separation. Illinois got the most talent. I don't think anybody's gonna argue with that one. But again, they're still up and down a little bit, right? I mean, you lose to USC. No shame in losing at Michigan State. No shame whatsoever. But they're going to be up and down because they're still completely new. And, a combination of youth with Will Riley and some of their other guys, and then a bunch of new guys, Colin Boswell and some of their other transfers. I trusted, like I said it earlier today, I was on a show and they asked me, who do you trust to win the league? And I said, Purdue. I mean, I thought this one today you could chalk up as a guaranteed win at home, and almost every win at Mackey, every game is a guaranteed win for them. But now you worry, like, who's it going to be? Obviously Izzo's gotten off to a good start, and Michigan State looks good. Like, they don't have as many holes as I thought they had. They're not the most talented team, but they're playing tough. They're playing Michigan State type basketball. Michigan's got a chance. We know Illinois' got a chance, and watching this Wisconsin team right now, they're fighting UCLA on the road. They're in the mix. Oregon's in the mix. Maryland's got a huge, huge week here on the road at Illinois, at Indiana. We'll see what they can do. So there's probably 7 or 8 teams that are still like firmly in the hunt right now. And I don't remember last time I said that about any league at this point.
Is Illinois right now, you look at this game tonight in Purdue, I mean, you trusted them this morning, and now they have a little bit of a setback. You said Illinois got the most talent, which in theory means they should have the best chance of making a run to San Antonio, in theory. But the freshman's got to be healthy. We know that, and he can't be in foul trouble. That game the other day, I think he played like 8 minutes before fouling out. Now, CJ Moore, our buddy, wrote about it the other day, and I thought it was a great point. Some of the calls were complete BS, but it's going to happen. So Illinois needs that guy to be out there, and if he's not, they're in harm's way. I'm just curious if you how many teams do you actually think from this league, Purdue included, that can get to San Antonio?
Oof, man,
probably zero. Zero, McCall. Say
that's
zero.
Really,
and that's the point.
I don't want to say that,
but here's the thing. I'll say, Goodman. Like, I'll say this. Like, I think the last 2 years there was 2 teams in the country that were clearly above everybody else. Yeah. It was UConn and Purdue.
Yep.
It was UConn and Purdue. They were in a class of their own for the last 2 years, right? Like, Purdue loses in the first round, then they turn around and play for the national championship the next year. But even the year that they lost in the first round, we were talking about UConn and Purdue the entire season. Now we're sitting here with like, okay, Auburn, yes, but we've seen them be vulnerable at times. We saw them lose at Duke. Duke, yes. We see Iowa State lose at West Virginia. Now you see West Virginia's in an absolute dogfight playing tonight. I just don't think that there's this cream of the crop of like, all right, these two teams are clearly the best two teams in the country. That's why I think you could see a Michigan State. You could see one of these teams from the Big Ten get to the Final Four, 1,000%, based on matchups, based on who they're playing. Right. Like I just don't. Right. I think there's more parity this year in college basketball than maybe years past.
Yes. You could see it, but it's hard to pick one and say this team is that team, right?
Childers, if you're listing 10 teams, right? They're probably, I'm not sure a Big Ten team is going to make your top 10. That's not to say they can't get there, right? They've got great coaches, number one. I mean, we're talking about Tom Izzo and Matt Painter, and Brad Underwood's a hell of a coach. And I think Dusty May is a hell of a coach, and Dana Altman's a hell of a coach. So there's some really good coaches there. So, I think there's still a good chance that one of these teams find its way into the Final Four. I'm not putting them. If I'm listing my top 8 teams right now, none of them are going to come from the Big Ten today. None of them.
It's an interesting league. It's an interesting era that we're in. It's kind of weird to see the Big Ten, and we're saying, well, this team might maybe, and they can get there, but nobody. It's not like the SEC where we're like, oh man, we love this team and that team, and this night it's going to be, Mississippi, and this night it's going to be Tennessee. I mean, it's kind of weird how we've shifted.
Yeah, but Childs, I'll say this too. Like, think about what the NCAA tournament is. Sometimes you get a week to prepare, right? Going into the tournament, you get a week to prepare. If you have a one-day prep and you're trying to prepare for Danny Wolf, who's this point forward on a one-day prep, like, you're trying to scout for him, like, hey, guys, we got to change our defensive principles, and we don't really get a ton of time to practice today, but this is what we got to – that's why like a team like Michigan, based on the matchups, I think – and Dusty May's proven that he took Florida Atlantic, a program that barely had done anything in the history. It got them all the way to the Final Four. So I think when you get to the tournament, you got to think about those types of things too, like matchups, preparation, style of play. Okay, all of a sudden Michigan lines up in the first round, the second round they're in this, tight game, or whatever is the 4-5, whatever it may be, and you got to prepare for that guy. Like, think about it. Like, that's a tough preparation for your power forward to have to try and guard him coming off ball screen set by a 5-man. I mean, that's something to think about.
It absolutely is. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, there's one more thing on Purdue before we jump off, and we got a bunch of other stuff to get to here.
Yeah, we Carolina do. It's busy night. Fun night.
Carolina's down away by 4 with 12 seconds left. Yeah. But here's my take on Purdue. Like, they have kind of a big 2.5, right? I mean, Braden Smith's still one of the top maybe 5 players in the country. Trey Kaufman-Renn has been really, really good this year. Fletcher Loyer's up and down sometimes. Here's a stat for you. The quartet of Miles Coven, Cam Heide, Caleb Furst, and CJ Cox in the second half did not score a point in 34 second half minutes.
Wow.
And really, Coven and Heide have been 2 guys that everybody expected to step up, really step up, and neither have done it with any sort of consistency. So to me, there's just too much on Smith, Kaufman-Renn, and Lawyer's still a little bit inconsistent. You needed a 4th and 5th guy, at least a 4th guy that's been consistent, and Matt Painter can't find that guy.
All right, let's go to the Big East as we're here on After Dark. Chris Childers with Jeff Goodman and Matt McCall. Fun game at UConn tonight as they barely avoid their second consecutive loss at home, mind you, as the Huskies win over Butler 80-78 in overtime. Butler, remind everybody, they're 1-7 in the Big East. They're 8-11 overall. Thad Matta's team certainly hasn't been great. And for UConn, interesting night, A, to survive, but B, Dan Hurley, again, if you go on social media, he's everywhere for talking to the ref, saying, don't turn your back on me. I'm the best damn coach in the country. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah, don't you big time me. I think it was don't you big time me. I'm the best coach in this effing sport.
Goodman.
Man, I don't.
What do you think about this UConn.
All right. I mean, listen, again, I did this a few months ago with Hurley, and we haven't talked since. In full disclosure, okay.
Sure.
I've known Danny for 25 years. I had
Yeah.
him in my prep school tournaments when he was at St. Benedict's. Okay, so I like Dan a lot, but I have a hard time liking him at times on the court. I really do, because I just don't think, no matter whether you and McCall can jump in on this because he's got way more insight into this than I do. But no matter whether you're pissed off at a call or not, no matter whether you think a ref sucks or not, there's a way to deal with referees. They're human beings. They miss calls. They're out there. And I think the other thing is, if you're yelling and screaming at these guys and chirping at them the whole time, I've always said this, it's much harder for them to do their jobs. If you're yelling and screaming at them while play's going on, it's going to be harder for them to focus and get calls right. But just the way he talks to these guys, to me at times, is disgusting. It's disgusting. And it needs to stop. And again, like, somebody needs to talk to him about this and get him in line, because it's not right. Again, they're human beings. They're human beings. Treat them as such.
Matt, what they did the last couple of years was historic. I mean, they were dominant champions. They whipped everybody's ass in the NCAA tournament. And it's one of those programs, you look at the job done on the court and with reverence. I mean, you revere them. What he has become, though, in the aftermath of that, it's like a WWE villain. I mean, I guess he likes it. He's embraced it, because in no way, shape, or form has he dialed this down. And tonight, I mean, I'm the best coach in the country. Don't you dare. I mean, even if you are, I would say right now, yeah, sure, you've won 2 in a row. But could you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, he has a point, right? Like,
well, yeah, but like, could you imagine Jay Wright or Tony Bennett or any of those guys in their day? I mean, go screw yourself, you arrogant. Like, it just pisses me. It's making UConn the villain of basketball. I don't think it's fair to his kids, because right now, like tonight, for example, I was rooting my butt off for Butler, and it's not like I'm a Butler fan. It's that I hate Dan Hurley. It's become that to me. It's become that. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. I mean, Goodman's known him for 20-something plus years. But this
he
kind
really
of stuff,
is. Like, he's charming as hell. If you get him off the court, I'm telling you, you would absolutely love him, and I love him. The only thing that I can't deal with is Dan Hurley versus the refs.
It's
the
too much.
Only thing. It's
too much.
Why, Jeff, don't you think they tee him up more?
They're scared of him. I know why. I know why. Because they want,
exactly.
They don't want to get taken off.
That's a fear factor that's he's putting in them.
He's got
you know, like,
right
from a coach's standpoint, and I never reached the status that he did. Not even came close. If I was ever a head coach again,
let's be honest, they were terrified.
No, I don't think they were scared of me. I think that when I would go nuts on officials and stomp my feet and scream and yell, I think it gave my teams anxiety.
Yeah,
I don't think it helped my teams. I don't know if he does it from the standpoint of he's trying to inspire his team, but for me, just speaking from a coach's perspective, looking back at my career, when I would scream and stomp and scream at officials and try to get calls and do all that, if I was ever calling ball plays again on the sideline, I don't think I would do it. There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place when you need to try to inspire your team when they're not playing to the level of capability, or they're not playing hard, or they're not playing with great effort. No question. And maybe you pull the official over and say, hey, I'm going to get one here because I'm going to try to fire my team up. But I felt like, from my standpoint, when I was over there, when I did it, and as a young head coach, I did it way too much. I don't think it helped my team by any means. I don't know if he does it, and it does help his team. They've won back-to-back national championships. I've seen him his last year at Rhode Island, where he knew that he had the best team in the league, and it wasn't even close. Really, like, it was not even close. His last year at Rhode Island, he didn't act like that. He knew, like, and I even think last year, like, I don't remember, how many times he went absolutely nuts on officials, because he didn't have to, because they were the best team, and he knew he had the best team. And maybe this year it's just a little bit different. I think expectations, when you're coming off back-to-back national championships, I mean, he's dealing with a lot too. He turns down the Laker job, he comes back. I mean, there's there's something to be said about that as well. But from my standpoint, I never felt like it helped. I don't know, like everybody's talking about it and everybody's watching it. And if it's that big of a deal, why aren't they throwing out more technical fouls? Like, why are they not giving him more technical fouls? Or why is the league, why is the Big East not getting involved?
They're scared.
They are scared. They're scared of losing. They're scared of losing their assignments, I think is a big part of it, Matt. And
okay, so then why is the league not getting involved?
Because they're scared of him too. They're scared of him too. And
well,
I think because they know
he's
right
doing
now,
a good job creating fear in everybody. Like, I mean,
but they won
can
2
get away with what he wants.
They're valuable. Like they're valuable to the brand.
But all you got to do now, all you got to do is run them 3 straight times, and it's over. It is over. That's it.
Well,
when you say run him, what do you mean?
Get him, kick him out.
Tee him up twice and run his ass out of the game if you have to.
But they're not doing it
like that. I know. And I'm not saying he's doing this every game. But when he does it, when he crosses that line, and I know after the game tonight, he said, like, we're 2-time defending champs. We don't get the calls we should, whatever, something like that. I'm paraphrasing it. I understand that. Like, you should, and I think he does get calls. I think the problem is, again, you can't act like that and think you're going to get calls that you shouldn't. Like they're human. Again, refs are human beings. They're human beings. And when you treat them that way
100%.
over and over and over, underneath it all, they are not going to want to give you a call. So when you don't get them, maybe you deserve them because, again, you're at that level. But a lot of refs are going to say, like, I don't give a shit. I'm not running them, but I'm certainly not going to give them some of these calls that are close in their mind.
No, you're.
I don't know.
You're going to hate
it's
the
tough,
guy,
man.
I mean,
it's tough. And at the end of the day, like, and we saw how he acted in Maui, and then coming off of Maui, there was a little bit of a difference. Last couple of games, when games have been close and they've come down to the wire, emotions are running high. It's the Big East. There's a lot of expectations. Your emotions can get the best of you, but nobody's doing anything. The league's not doing anything. The officials aren't doing anything. They're trying to get them to calm down, but they're not throwing out technical fouls. So it's, I don't know the solution. Like, what's the solution, right? Like, he's going to continue to, bark at officials and go. Nobody's going to stop it.
I think the only solution, and I actually don't think this worked because I think a Hall of Fame coach called him earlier this year, from what I was told, and talked to him about it a little bit. But the only solution is, 2 years ago, he said it affected him and his team when they went through that 6-game losing streak. And he was calling the league office, this, that, and the other. And he said, I was distracted by it. And then he started to kind of focus on the right things. And look at what happened. He looked back. He was able to look back on it when he was in at the Final Four and admit, I went over the line. It cost me. It cost us. It rattled me and caused me to lose focus, and I got that back. So, like, can he do that again? Who talked to him then? Who got him? Maybe it's just the losing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think too. Like the official piece of it is big, but like from a basketball standpoint too. At the end of this game, like, Hassan Diarra's got to be the facilitator. He cannot be the guy that's taking the shot with the game on the line. He cannot be.
Right.
And they've got to get healthy, and they've got to get everyone back out there. Diarra is a glue guy. He's physical. He makes winning plays. He rebounds. But he's got to be the facilitator in those types of situations with the game on the line. He cannot be the guy that's taking the shot.
Especially when you have the game. Solo ball making shots, McCall, and Caravan still can make plays for himself driving to the basket.
Yep.
Right. Yes. Like, again, Diarra's done a hell of a job this year. Like, much better than I thought. He's been awesome.
9 assists. He needed 10.
They missed
he needed 10.
Listen, they miss Liam McNeely.
They miss
so bad.
They miss him. They need him to be back out there.
And then some. There's no doubt they need him soon. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Big night in the SEC. Tennessee back on track. They are lethal at home, and they're lethal when they play good D. They got it done tonight. We'll tell you how when we come back right here on the Field of 68 After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right, we're back here. Field of 68 After Dark. Chris Childers with the great Jeff Goodman and the coach, Matt McCall. We were going to talk some SEC here, but we'll do that in a little bit because we just had a huge game go final of great significance. North Carolina falls again. They lose their second straight game. They're now 5-3 overall, or 12-8 overall, 5-3 in the ACC. Big win for Wake, who's now 15-4 overall and 7-1 in the league. So the Demon Deacons having themselves a hell of a season. But all year long, the conversation has been about North Carolina just not being very good. And Goodman tonight, again, a tough loss for Coach Davis and the Heels.
You know, it's one of those things where I just feel like Ian Jackson has come on over the last month, but rarely do you get a game now where it's both RJ and Ian Jackson playing well together. Like it's one or the other. And I think it's because they're both kind of ball dominant. Both are scorers. But you would think it would kind of work with Elliot Cadeau, right? Elliot Cadeau is 13 assists tonight. He moves the ball. You just can't get both of them in sync together. And if you don't, then you need something from your front court. And let's face it. I mean, Carolina's front court, I've said it. I feel like I say it every show that Carolina plays. It's just not good enough. You know, they missed out on some guys in the portal. And now you're stuck with, frankly, some backups that are having to play big minutes and they get exposed against, Efton Reeds of the world. And you got to win these games. You know, if you're Carolina and you want to get in the NCAA tournament, it's the same thing for Wake Forest right now. You're kind of fighting each other probably for a spot at the end of the day. And I know it's not about league and how many teams each league is getting, but it's going to be close. Both these teams are probably going to be in the bubble at the end of the day. They're kind of fighting each other. And Wake now has one up on North Carolina, and Wake has been playing very, very well lately. Why? Because, frankly, Hunter Salas has been more efficient, although he wasn't great shooting the ball tonight, and Cam Hildreth's been better. And, again, he got to the line. They didn't shoot it great tonight, but they guarded, and they got to the line.
Wait,
is there a more likable guy in college basketball than Steve Forbes? Is there a more likable guy than Forbes?
Up there because he's transparent. He's very transparent.
He is the best. Yeah. He's just real. He's not fake. He doesn't try to toy with the media about anything. I mean, let's give Coach Forbes credit right now. 6 in a row, and it wasn't going well early in the season, and expectations for this group were a little bit high, and he's got this team rolling, and he's got them playing well. Now, on the flip side, talking about officials If I'm Hubert Davis and my team shoots 10 free throws and the other team shoots 27, I got a problem.
Yeah.
Now I'm calling the league office.
Yeah.
I'm calling the league office. 27 free throws to 10? But I'm taking nothing away from Wake Forest. I'm taking nothing away from Steve Forbes. I'm so happy for him because he's one of the most likable guys in all of college basketball. He really is. To see this Wake Forest team playing, this is what we thought. This is what we thought at ACC Media Day. We thought this Wake Forest team would be for real. We did. We thought that they would be competing for an ACC regular season title. I know Duke's in a class of their own in terms of this league, but this Wake Forest team is sitting here at 7-1. 7-1. And they have the talent, and they look like an NCAA tournament team. Take away their non-conference schedule and some of the bumps they had in the road. This is also the team that knocked off Michigan. Let's not forget about that. Like that's a big non-conference.
Childers, don't let McCall off the hook with Carolina right now, though, and Hubert Davis. All right, don't let him off the hook because
if I'm Hubert Davis, I'm calling the league office. I'm calling.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
27
That's not what I'm asking about. All right, here's what I'm asking about. And Childers, I want you to weigh in on this.
Is this where John Henson is? Is this Henson stuck in Winston-Salem? Is that
probably
where he is?
he knew what was going to happen here. He knew what was going to happen.
He didn't want to. Is that where Henson is? Okay.
All right. I'm going to give you a scenario.
Okay.
You're North Carolina. Year one, you're average the whole first season, and then you go on a run the last month of the year, and you go to the national title game. Okay. Year two, you're not very good. You don't make the tournament. Year three, you have a great year. Great year. Cormac Ryan and Harrison Ingram, and you have a hell of a season last year. Make the tournament, have a great regular season. Year four, now you're right on the bubble. If you don't make the season, I'm not saying Hubert's going to be gone after this year. So don't mistake what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is if he doesn't make the tournament this year, next year is the year to show whether you are the future head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, because it is not good enough at North Carolina to not make the tournament every other year. That is not good enough. The standard is obviously much higher than that, especially when you've got Duke right now running things in the ACC. Not even close. And really one of the prohibitive favorites right now to win the whole thing.
Well, even getting to the tournament, McCall, it's not good enough. Go ahead.
And I'll say this, Goodman, I agree with you. Comparison is the thief of joy. And you have two coaches that took over for living legends, two of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, right? And what Jon Scheyer is doing at Duke is remarkable. You know how I am. I always try to side with the coaches, and especially young coaches that are taking over these situations. I don't care what Hubert Davis's age is. He's still only been a head coach for 4 years. So he's still a young head coach. He's a young head coach. And to watch what Jon Scheyer's doing, especially in terms of recruiting, I mean, nobody's beating Duke right now for a player. Like if Duke wants a player, it seems like they're getting them. It does not even matter. Duke's getting all these guys. So I agree with you. Yes, this year has not gone great. The roster is up to the staff. I mean, if they don't have a front court player, which we have a bunch of them that are on our show, we got Henson, we got Hansborough, we got these guys. Seems like Tony Bradley, they've always had a guy that impacts the game in the front court. They don't have.
They've had two.
That's on the coaching staff.
They haven't had one. They've had two every year under Roy Williams.
That is on the coaching staff. So his winning percentage is right around 70%. So he's still winning a lot of games, but it's Carolina. The standard is not just getting to the tournament. The standard is not just winning 20 games. The standard is winning national championships. When you go to the Dean Dome, in my second year at Chattanooga, we played there. And I walked in there and I was kind of in awe. Like we had beaten Tennessee the first game of the season. The second game of the season, we walked in there and I'm looking up at the Raptors like, wow. And that was Joel Berry. That was those guys. I mean, I don't think he's not losing his job after this season if this doesn't go well. I don't think. Nope. I think he's done enough. But the standard is not 20 wins. That's a standard at some places. Not with that baby blue. That's not. And he's one of their own. And there's a lot of alums and a lot of people that will be very, very disappointed if they don't get to the tournament.
There's a lot to unpack when it comes to the situation in North Carolina. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know if he would lose his job at the end of the year or not, but he probably should if they don't go to the NCAA tournament. But that, like, the fact that we're just even talking about that as the bare minimum to me is ridiculous. This is North Carolina. Like, that's get to the Elite Eight and hopefully get to the Final Four on an every year basis and play for a national title. We're talking about
get to the tournament every year.
At minimum.
Tournament.
At the bare minimum. And then we get to the second weekend every year, I think should be North Carolina's minimum. Get to the Sweet 16. But here's my thing. You know, Goodman, you said it earlier. Their front court's not good enough. The back court's good. So, you know, if I talk a lot of football, that to me would be like getting a lot of great skill players and then just being awful on the line of scrimmage. And you're going to get your ass kicked. Doesn't matter how good your guards are. Doesn't matter how good your quarterback or your wide receivers or anybody is. My question is why? Why are they getting crushed? Why can't they compete with Duke? And if he is shown, or the collective or the NIL or whatever the hell's going on where they're not winning players, I want to get the inside here. Why are they getting beat for players? And if the answer is that he's not good enough or he doesn't have a staff that's good enough to make the deals, then he's got to get the hell out of there. Period. You need somebody that can play this game. But I don't know that why. But if they got backups in the front court at North Carolina, forget it. You're going to be out of a job soon, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and he's obviously it's a different era, and he's shown the ability to go to the portal, right? I mean, he's gone to the portal right now. Yeah. I just think they've swung and missed, and obviously, you know, you can claim they didn't have as much money as Duke. Well, whose fault is that? I mean, part of the deal right now, unfortunately,
is that true?
And
why?
it's changed.
How could that happen?
Well, they didn't sign up for that. I get it. When Hubert Davis took the job, he didn't sign up for this era of college basketball. I get it. But that's still you're being evaluated on what you're doing now in this culture, in this new age of college basketball. And you just, like you said, you may not fit the way it is right now because certain guys are great coaches, but if they can't raise money to build the roster, if they don't know how to build the roster the right way, quickly, because you're not going to be able to develop guys the way a lot of programs could do it for years. And even the one and dones might not be, if their name's not Cooper Flagg, right? They may not impact winning as freshmen like they did in the past, because you're going up against older guys. So there's a lot more to it right now of running a program. And some guys just may not be as cut out for that as others.
But that's the other piece too, Goodman. Like,
ahead,
and you just bring up Cooper Flagg. Like, the reason that look, it's Carolina. Like, it's North Carolina. The expectations are really, really high. But when you look at what's going on right down the road, that's why the seat's getting a little bit hotter.
Yeah,
let's call it like it is. Like, if John Shire was not doing what John Shire is, and that is a credit to John Shire as a young head coach, to be recruiting better than everybody in the country, to be handling all this NIL stuff, to have the number one player in the country who's going to be the number one draft pick, who seems to be handling himself better than any other player in terms of the expectations and everything that's coming with all this, and they're out there winning at a high level, and you could make a case that they're the best team in the league. That's not helping Hubert Davis.
Yeah.
It's not helping. It's not helping him. And it's right down the road. It is that is a challenge.
Yeah. Well, you know what else isn't helping him is the fact that Louisville was a disaster, and Pat Kelsey has come in and turned it around quickly in the ACC. And tonight they hammer SMU, and they do it on the road, 98-73. They were up 50-25, nearly doubled up the Mustangs at halftime. This team is hot. I mean, what else can you say about what Kelsey has done? Fixing this thing fast, Matt McCall, incredible. And they just blitzkrieged SMU tonight.
Like you see these players that transfer up. And I'm going to use Rain Smith as an example. And Goodman saw him a lot more than I saw him because he lived in Charleston. So he was there a bunch for this. This dude made 10 threes tonight. Louisville as a team made 19 threes. They shot 42. They made 19 on the road. Think about that. And sometimes you see these guards, you're like, is he good enough? Is he good enough to play in the ACC? I don't know. Athletically, can he guard anybody? I don't care. I don't care if you can guard anybody. When you can make 10 threes in a single game, man. And it's just, Kelsey's energy is infectious, and he's nonstop, and he is who he is. And we talked earlier about Forbes and being one of the most likable guys in college basketball. The whole Kelsey thing, it's not an act. That's who he is.
No.
His energy is infectious. It's who he is. I mean, the guy's driving down the road the other day, and we see a video that goes viral on Twitter when he's throwing up the L's to the fans going by him in his truck. Like, it's just that the guy's nonstop. I mean, God bless his wife. I mean, I can't even imagine what she has to deal with in terms of this guy. But, it's impressive to see because the program was not in good shape at all. And, these fans were starving. I coached a game in the TBT in Louisville, the basketball tournament over the summer. And I remember sitting there like these Louisville Cardinal fans are lined up outside to see Peyton Siva, who hasn't played in 7-8 years, whatever it may be. Like they're starving. He was the right hire, 1,000%. And he's got them at 8-1 in the league. I mean, they're a game behind Duke in terms of first place. I mean, it's impressive. There's no question about it.
No, he was the right guy. I mean, he was the opposite of Kenny Payne in a lot of ways. Right? Like Kenny Payne didn't have a ton of energy. Kelsey comes in and he just riles up the entire fan base right away. He's organized. His players play hard. There's no, every time you felt like you saw a Kenny Payne post-game press conference, you felt like there was kind of, something there that he said that he shouldn't have said, right? There was always something going on in that program. Now it's been fairly quiet and uneventful other than a couple injuries, which in a way I think have forced Pat Kelsey to shorten the rotation. Instead of playing 10 guys like he normally did at Charleston, now he's down to, 8 guys. And you look at Rain Smith, and he's an elite shooter. And you look at James Scott, and he's getting time right now. And I said this when I saw him last year. I said, I think he can play for North Carolina. I said it all last year. I was like, I don't want to run him out of Charleston, but this kid can transfer. He could play for North Carolina. And right now, he would be North Carolina's best big man. He would be a difference maker for the Tar Heels. And right now, he's becoming a difference maker for Louisville. But I made fun of Rob Doster all preseason because he went overboard with Louisville. I mean, overboard. And I like
you made fun of Rob Doster?
Like,
never.
Yeah.
You and Rob Doster made fun of each other?
Never.
That actually happens? Oh, okay.
Well, he just went crazy with it. He was like dark horse Final Four team.
Well, he was down in the Bahamas. He's sipping Mai Tais. Him and T.O. were down there. They were sitting courtside.
Do we buy it now? Do we buy dark horse Final Four?
I mean, they could be, I guess. It's not insane to say. It's just, again, you look at him and you're still like, I mean, Chucky Hepburn's been awesome. And Rain Smith has turned into, like, he's just got that confidence, that swagger that it didn't matter that he went from Charleston to Louisville in the ACC. And frankly, let's also say, it's not like he's going from the CAA to the old ACC, right? It's not as big of a jump this year as it would have been 5-10 years ago.
That's a good point.
Very, very valid point. Well, huge win for Louisville. They were on fire shooting the basketball, and they just kind of hammered SMU.
19 threes.
Dude, you talk about being hungry. They got fed. I mean, that was buffet. If they were starving, they got a little prime rib and a little salad and, a cream corn and the whole thing. They stacked that plate. They stacked it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. When we do, Tennessee tonight, really good defensively. They continue to dominate at home. We'll talk about it next on After Dark.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Humble podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride.
All right, back here on the Field of 68 After Dark. Chris Childers with the coach, Matt McCall and Jeff Goodman. Tennessee in the SEC, it's always a big night. Anytime you have a loaded night in the SEC, a lot of cannibalization. I mean, pretty much every day it seems like a new storyline. The one thing that's been consistent, Tennessee is damn good at home, and they have been locked in defensively at home. They played Mississippi State today, who we saw over the weekend look damn good. They go on the road. They score 56. They only have 16 points in the first half as Tennessee was just locked down. Chaz Lanier leads the way with 23 points. And for the Vols, back on track after going to Nashville and losing a close one this past weekend. Goodman, seems like that's just kind of life in the SEC. But the one thing you can count on is Tennessee when they're at Thompson Bowling.
Yeah, I mean, their only two losses have come at Florida, where they were absolutely embarrassed, and then at Vandy last game, right? Mm-hmm. And Vandy's a tough place to play, and Byington's done a pretty good job. He's done a very good job, actually, with the roster. Yeah. He's done a terrific job this season. I'm glad they won this because I'm going to be at that Auburn game this weekend, Tennessee at Auburn, and I want that to be – yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be – and I want to see Tennessee, play well going into it, not limp into that game, and they look great defensively. I mean, listen, Mississippi State is a tough team to guard. I mean, you've got Josh Hubbard, one of the toughest guards in the country in terms of getting his own shot, and he's not nearly as reliant Chris Chance isn't nearly as reliant on Hubbard this year. Melendez has been playing better, and Claudell Harris gives him another weapon, transferring from Boston College. And I think Matthews has been terrific for them as a mainstay guy. Riley Kugel comes off the bench last game and has a huge game or 2 games ago. So I think they've got more weapons this year. But, again, when Tennessee wants to turn off the water, they can do it. If they put their mind to it, they can do it. And that means they don't need to – everybody criticizes them because – again, they're not a great offensive team. And if Chaz Lanier struggles, who's going to score? Milicic, struggled tonight again, shooting the ball. But they can win the game with their defense. They don't have to score a lot of points. They can grind it and win a game just by holding a team to, 56 points tonight.
Oof. I agree, Jeff. Their defense is going to travel, and the 2 losses this year, the Florida game seemed to me is just one of those games, and I've been on both sides of that, where you're on the Florida side and everything's going right, and it's just you can't miss. They can't make a shot. I've been on the other side where you can't make a shot, and you get absolutely blitzkrieged and run out of the building. So I think we got to take that game and kind of put it aside, and we know how good Florida is. And then, Vanderbilt, I mean, it's a tough place to play. And you said it, Jeff. Mark Byington's doing, a terrific job kind of getting some life back into that program. But this Mississippi State team is good. And, Josh Hubbard, when he's clicking, at one point in time this season, early in the year, I think it was in like late November, he had 1 turnover. Like the ball's in his hands so much, like to think about that. I mean, this team's good. For Tennessee to shut them down, I mean, to hold them in the 50s that's how good defensively they can be. Are they in the same category as, a top 10 team in terms of, Auburn or Duke? No, I don't think they're in that category. But are they a team that can make, can they get to the second weekend? 100%. I mean, but this just shows you how good the SEC is.
It's really good. And another team that impressed in the SEC tonight is the one that is on my hat, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Just 2 nights in a row.
The Tide. He loves the Tide.
Just
shooting
the hell out of the basketball.
Master's degree.
Ever since I enrolled, I kind of bolted on Kentucky, which is
Master's
weird.
degree. Roll Tide.
Roll damn Tide, Paul. But the offense has been on like supercharged the last couple of days. They scored over 100 again today. They're shooting the hell out of the ball. If you look at tonight and inside the box score, it was, Diabate was he was unstoppable. Great game for the Tide. Vandy didn't play bad. They a couple times they tried to scratch, claw, cut it to 10, but every time Alabama had an answer, and you could tell Jeff Goodman, Nate Oates was fired up tonight with these guys.
I mean, he's just got so many weapons, and he's down. Darian Reed right now isn't even playing. And sometimes, and McCall can speak to this, sometimes it's easier if you only got like 8 guys, right? Everybody kind of knows what they're doing. They're going to get extended minutes, so they're going to get a chance to play through some mistakes and, get loose and heat up a little bit. And Mark Sears has played over the last month. The first month, I thought Mark Sears really struggled. I remember seeing him in Vegas, and I was like, he does not look like himself at all. And really since then, since December, the last month and a half, he's played as well as almost anybody in the country. I mean, he's been an All-American over those 6 weeks because he can score when he needs to, but he can make people better. Aiden Holloway tonight was on it, and Diabate is just so tough. Like, he's the most invaluable guy in a lot of ways for that team because he gives them the toughness and the defense, and because they're not great defensively. I mean, listen, for all they scored, they gave up 87 to Vandy, and they're going to need to tighten that one up because we talked about Tennessee and how good they can be defensively. Well, you're not going to want to rely on outscoring teams for 6 straight games if you want to win the whole thing. And Nate Oates has got to figure that out. I talked to him about it last week when I saw him in South Carolina. They're inconsistent on that end. And again, they could score with anybody.
And they have the last couple of games against Kentucky and tonight against Vanderbilt. Well, nice win for Alabama and Mark Sears, 21 points.
Roll Tide, Pony.
Roll high Tide.
You know,
yeah,
you love the Tide. Roll Tide. Okay,
I do. I'm invested. Once you start paying a school and giving them thousands of dollars, it's amazing how much you start to like them.
I get it.
Iowa State. I haven't given Iowa State a dime, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind if I did because their offense was on fire. They needed it. They only scored 57 on the road.
Think what you just said. You said their offense was on fire, Childers. Like, when has anybody said that about a TJ Otzelberger team? Like, never.
We're saying
this
it tonight.
Season?
100
this season?
And 8
this
points
season?
They scored. They scored 108 over UCF. The last game they scored 57. So that's pretty much doubling it up. How'd they do it, Matt McCall?
Well, I think this too. He's going to be disappointed that his defense gave up so many points in this game. He scored 108, but he's going to be so disappointed that his defense gave up over 80 to a UCF team. We said it last week on the show just in terms of the job that he's doing. And so many times, and Goodman is the king of this, we grade these coaching hires. And when this guy got hired, it was kind of like, oh, man, not a great year at UNLV. Oh, man, is he the right guy? Yeah, he was the right guy because of his tenure as an assistant coach at that place and how he treated everybody, and he knows what goes into winning. He learned it. He worked for a couple different guys at that spot, and he knows what goes into winning. He's got to be in the category for National Coach of the Year. He really does with the job that he's doing. And it's always been this tough, grinded out defensive mentality. And now his offense is clicking. And when you have a defense that's ranked in the top 30 in terms of numbers, in terms of, top 30 in defensive efficiency in the country, top 30 in terms of offensive efficiency in the country, you got an opportunity to win it all. And that's exactly what he has. And tonight was a clinic on the offensive end of the floor. But I'm sure he's going to be watching that tape. For a guy that loves defense, he's not going to be happy he gave up 83. You're not going to be happy.
Well,
so hey,
nice
Childers,
when
when St. Mary's lost a couple guys, it was Aiden Mahaney and Joshua Jefferson in the portal. And Jefferson had gotten hurt at the end of the year last year, and he didn't play the last month or two. Everybody was like, oh, my God, Mahaney's leaving. And he went to UConn. And that's all anybody could talk about, right? Aiden Mahaney going to UConn. Aiden Mahaney hasn't really made any impact at UConn, but Joshua Jefferson has completely changed. And not like change like from one end to the other, but like giving him a completely different dimension on the offensive end. I mean, look at what he did tonight. He had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He is that multi-dimensional forward. Yeah, like he's awesome. He's the most he's the most underrated player in the country this year and the most underrated addition to a team that it could take to a national title. They're that good with him, and they don't have their best shooter still. Milan's, he's going to be out for a little while here with a broken finger. So, but they still scored. I mean, that's a crazy thing. They still scored 108 without him.
People are going to figure it out before it's all said and done. Trust me, when it comes to them and Jefferson and his impact. Let's go to the Big 12. West Virginia defense, we know how good they are. Couldn't get enough offense as Arizona State goes on the road. They beat the Mountaineers 65-57. Tough loss for WVU at home. Goodman, what's the impact?
I mean, listen, what they've done without Tucker DeVries is incredible. But their margin for error is so small, and that's the right word for it, because, if Javon Small doesn't have a great game, not a good game, a great game, they're not winning against good teams. And he was 2 for 11 tonight. And Amani Hansberry was 3 for 12. So your two best players, the only two guys you can really count on, were 5 of 23 tonight and 1 for 13 from 3. So Arizona State, give Bobby Hurley credit. He's done a nice job this year, lending a couple of really talented freshmen, one of which didn't even play tonight. The kid Sonnen didn't play, but Quentin Ince played, and he had 15 and 12. And he's like the youngest player in the country. I think he's younger than Cooper Flagg because he has to stay 2 years. He's not even eligible for the draft after 1 year. Man-child. And Hurley did a great job bringing in some transfers that, frankly, didn't cost a ton of money, but they've fit, and he's given himself a chance now. But I just think West Virginia, I don't expect Tucker DeVries back. I'd be surprised if he comes back with that shoulder injury this year. And if he doesn't, they've done enough. They've got enough good wins that they're going to make the tournament. But I'll say this, I don't know if they can withstand this. And poor Javon Small is going to run out of gas by the end of the year.
Yeah.
This is that game. This is that game where you played on Saturday and you hope this game wasn't until Wednesday, because you played on Saturday and you had to practice Sunday, you had to practice Monday. There was no off day. You had that ultimate high in that game on Saturday. Now you got to come back down the mountain and refocus and get ready to play this game against Arizona State. The celebrating had to be gone behind you. You had to put it behind you. Very similar to what we saw against Purdue today. We'll be okay. We're at home. How good is this team? Arizona State has won some games. We'll be fine. This score, West Virginia only scoring 57 points, to me is credit Coach Hurley and what they did, but it's also West Virginia could have benefited from this game being played on Wednesday because they needed to be able to put what happened behind them on Saturday, and they didn't do that. They didn't do that because they didn't show up. Just only score 57 points on your home floor after how well you played against one of the best teams in the country on Saturday. I mean, that's college basketball. I mean, and that's the parity in college basketball too.
Not very good, no doubt about it. Also in the Big 12, Texas Tech with a road win tonight, 81-71 over Cincinnati. The Red Raiders now 5-2 in the Big 12. Matt McCall, what jumped out to you about the win tonight and about Texas Tech overall, now 14 wins this year?
Yeah, I mean, Graham McCasland. I mean, he's doesn't matter where he's been, he's going to win games. Whether it was North Texas, Texas Tech, Arkansas State before that. I mean, the guy just can flat out coach, and he's also been able to adapt to these times of college basketball. Like when you look at his teams at North Texas, he'd win games that were in the 50s and less possessions, slower pace of play. Didn't matter. Let's just grind it out. And now, being able to win a game in the 80s. I mean, I think it's a tribute to him. But this team they're for real. And when you look at the Big 12, you got to put them in the upper echelon of the other teams in that league because, they have the talent and, to be able to go on the road and score 81 points, that's tough.
Really? Yeah, and they got,
really
listen,
tough.
The kid JT Toppin, who transferred from New Mexico, has been terrific up front. And he's got one of the most underrated freshmen in the country. This kid, Christian Anderson, has been awesome this year. He's small, but, man, he plays big. Oak Hill Academy kid. I think he's from Atlanta originally. And he's been terrific, like a huge find for Grant McCasland, who is – look at their numbers, guys. Like, I don't understand it sometimes. I know it's predictive with KenPom, but, like, I'm looking at them, and they're, like, number 11 in the country right now at KenPom. So they've won enough games and won enough games big and started to stack some pretty good wins, like other than Iowa State, the lost Iowa State, which was no shame in. They've won now 5 of the last 6 with Arizona, Cincinnati, BYU, Utah, Kansas State. And that's the thing in the Big 12. There just aren't a lot of wins that are going to pull you down like some of these other leagues. SEC and Big 12 are still the two leagues because in the Big East, there's still some of them. I mean, Seton Hall's been atrocious. Big 10, there's still a few at the bottom there. And certainly we know with the ACC.
Dagan did not like that.
Dagan was yelling in the background. Our producer. Not a fan.
I know. I feel bad saying it, but
truth hurts.
Sorry, Dagan.
Truth hurts.
Sorry, Dagan. Let's finish up. We started with the Big Ten. Let's end with the Big Ten. UCLA snaps Wisconsin's 7-game win streak. The Badgers were hot. The Bruins have had a colorful year. Mick Cronin has certainly had an interesting little ride. But they got a big win tonight, Goodman. What do you think about it?
They needed it. I mean, they needed it. Coming home, they needed it to start stacking some wins here. And, today against a Wisconsin team that's not overpowering, but neither is UCLA. They're both good teams. They're both good teams. And, again, Tyler Bilodeau to me has been a nice find for Mick Cronin this year. Today it was the big kid, Adai Mara. A kid he brought in last year and raved about, 7'3", and I was almost surprised he stuck around for his sophomore year and didn't just go back overseas or something. But he was unstoppable tonight. And that's kind of a big difference, I think, with Wisconsin now is they're not as big. They've had a couple big guys for the last few years down low and not quite as dominant with multiple bigs on their roster right now. So this is a big one for UCLA and for Wisconsin. They're going to be fine. My guess is Wisconsin at the end of the day is like in that 8-9 game, and UCLA could be the same, but like I could see UCLA. The only thing that worries me about UCLA is still, and I know Mick's complained about it, but I think he's right on this. The travel is brutal for UCLA and USC. Yeah. Brutal.
It sucks, and it's not going to
Yep.
get better anytime soon when they're traveling all over the country.
I mean, they
It's
were
brutal. It really
fortunate,
is.
Jeff, too, to win that game. I mean, Wisconsin made 15 threes. Wisconsin was 15 for 30
Yeah.
from the three-point line. So for UCLA to find a
that's
way
a
to
good
win that
win.
game, and it's not like UCLA was like bombing them in. They were 6 of 19. So, I mean, UCLA was fortunate to win that game. So take them however you can get them. I mean, you know, especially in that league, just find a way to win games.
That's all you can do, and they found a way tonight. Let's find a way to finish up with a beautiful toast. It's been a busy night of college basketball. Always a pleasure to hang out with Matt McCall and Jeff Goodman. I can't think of a better way to spend a Tuesday. But let's start with the toast. I'm going to go with the team that's on my hat, Alabama. I watched that game tonight, and it was just fun. Just bombs away. You want to be entertained, watch Alabama basketball. They might not play a lot of defense, but son of a gun, they are fun to watch on the offensive end. So Nate Oates over 100 points, 2 games in a row against good teams. Roll damn Tide, and a toast to you, sir.
Roll damn Tide. There you go, Childers. Roll Tide.
Who's next?
Go ahead,
Goodman?
McCall. I know who you're picking, McCall.
Okay.
I already know who you're picking.
Who am I picking?
I know who you're
You don't
picking.
know who I'm picking. No, you
I
have
do.
no idea. Give me
They're in
Tony
the
Skin,
A10.
George Mason. Give me Tony Skin, George Mason. That's where I'm
All
going.
right. I picked the A10.
Five games in a row. Mason sits at first place in the league. Impressive to see what he's doing at his alma mater. We cracked that slipper back in 2006 in the Final Four. I was on that staff. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say it. We cracked that slipper. A little bit of a flex there, but it's impressive to see how hard his team plays, especially on the defensive end of the floor. This Mason team is for real. First place in the A10. Tony Skin. Cheers to the night.
No, it's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going to go with the Bradley Braves and Brian Wardle. Okay. They are 17-3 and 8-1 in the Valley. They beat Belmont on the road today. And I know I have been talking about Drake all year because I saw him in person and I freaking love watching that team. They've stumbled a little bit lately. But they did, the one loss did come against Drake, Bradley. So I really hope Bradley and Drake meet in like the Valley finals. Like I kind of want to go to that if it happens, but Wardle, big win at Belmont tonight to go to 8-1, first place in the Valley, and 17-3 overall. That's a hell of a season so far.
Toasts indeed to the Bradley Braves. All right, gentlemen, we are done on a glorious Tuesday for Jeff Goodman and Matt McCall. Dagan, our producer, Trevor, excellent job as always. I am Chris Childers, and we thank you for watching and listening to the Field of 68 After Dark.